There is a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
Some 100-odd years ago, a motley collection of tough mustaches galloped across the West and left behind a raft of legends and leisure domains. And it seems a reasonable conjecture that if there are any television sets up in cowboy heaven, and any one of these rough and woolly nail-eaters could see with what careless abandon their names and exploits are being bandied about, they're very likely turning over in their graves, or worse, getting out of them. Which gives you a clue as to the proceedings that'll begin in just a moment, when one Mr. Rance McGrew, a $3,000-a-week phony baloney, discovers that this week's current edition of Make Believe is being shot on location. And that location is the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo.
And I'm your co-host, 80Z.
80, long time no see.
Yep.
So, hope everything's going okay. Hope you ain't had a showdown at the OK Corral anytime soon.
Hopefully I'll be okay after this rancid episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Eric's not a fan. But
not particularly.
But we'll see how Jimbo rates it
yeah,
at the
he'll
end
probably
of this episode.
pull one on me and, it's my favorite episode of the whole series. That's probably how we'll end up.
I've seen worse, Eric. I've seen worse.
Yeah. All right. Well, Showdown with Rance McGrew. This is the Twilight Zone season number 3, episode number 20. We're just cooking right along. I think we're over halfway through season 3 with this episode. I think there's 33 episodes in season 3, so we're over halfway. This episode was aired on February 2nd, 1962. So we're into February of 1962. And that leads us to our favorite segment in the episode. The segment that we like to call On This Day in History. All right, so for February 2nd, 1962 is our air date, but if we go back a few years to February 2nd, 1940, and Frank Sinatra was in our last episode's trivia, we got another one. Frank Sinatra in 1940. This one hits close to home. He performs at the Lyric Theater in Indianapolis, Indiana. And this was his first as a featured singer with Tommy Dorsey Orchestra playing, which, if that has ties to our Twilight Zone world, right? It has ties to the fifth dimension, because I think in the episode Static, the Tommy Dorsey band was, right? It was referenced in that episode. So there it is. Frank Sinatra and Tommy Dorsey Orchestra in Indianapolis, Indiana. So then we skip ahead a few years to February 2nd, 1955. And we have our first presidential news conference on network television. And it was President Eisenhower, right? I Like Ike. And it was on ABC. It was televised on ABC. So Eisenhower was the first president to hold a television news conference in 1955. February 2nd, 1970, LSU's Pete Maravich becomes the first to score 3,000 college basketball points. And oddly enough, that earlier this year, Caitlin Clark actually surpassed that feat earlier, I think around March. You got to remember, Pistol Pete and all the basketball historians will be quick to remind all of the Caitlin Clark fans that there was no three-point line when Pete Maravich did it at LSU in the 60s. So I don't know what he ended up with. I think he ended up with like 3,100 points, or somewhere in there.
Something like that.
And but he passed 3,000 points in 1970. And finally, as far as trivia goes, got a couple birthdays, but as far as trivia goes, February 2nd, 1976, The Honeymooners' second honeymoon airs on TV. I didn't even know they made a remake of The Honeymooners, but it must have not done very well. But
Doesn't
1976.
sound familiar.
I don't think I've seen one episode of Yeah.
Was it the same cast?
I don't know if the entire cast was the same. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look that up, but 1976. So birthdays, let's move on to those. February 2nd, 1947, American actress of Charlie's Angels and The Burning Bed, Farrah Fawcett. She was born in Corpus Christi, Texas. Yeah, 1947, Farrah Fawcett, February 2nd. February 2nd, I go back a century, February 2nd, 1886, Scottish actor and director of Mutiny on the Bounty, Oliver Twist, and Blood on the Sun, one Frank Lloyd was born in Glasgow, Scotland. So Frank Lloyd, February 2nd, 1886, Scottish director. Didn't you guys do Mutiny on the Bounty, or you were about to? He's shaking his head no. I know that we talked about it. February 2nd, 1895, American Pro Football Hall of Fame coach one George Halas was born in 1895. He has NFL championships from 1921, 32, 33, 40, 41, 43, 46, and 63. He won NFL Coach of the Year in 1963 and, respectively, 1965 as the coach of the Chicago Bears, the Bears of the Midway.
The Bears.
And he was an executive owner of the Chicago Bears from 1921 to 1983. He was even born in Chicago, Illinois on February 2nd, 1895. So that concludes On This Day in History. We've got a little mix of TV, television, sports, and birthdays for you on this day. So let's move on, or move back to our episode. This episode was directed by Christian Nyby. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Nyby, maybe. This one was written by Rod Serling, but it has an insert in here. It was based on an idea by Frederick Lewis Fox. So I think I have some of that in the trivia of how that idea came from Fox, and then I think Rod paid him some money for the idea, and then he basically took the baton and crafted the rest of the story and rounded it out and made it a television episode. The production cost for this episode came in at $50,486.33, which that's about average for our episodes. 50,000 being the benchmark. The dates of rehearsal, there were two, October 16th and October 17th of 1961, so the previous fall. Dates of filming, there were three, October 18th, 19th, and 20th of 1961. And just a little backdrop of how it was shot. The first day of filming was devoted to the scenes in the Western Street. So if you think about the gunfight on the Western Street and, out there, that was done on the first day. And it was done on Lot 3 at MGM. The second and third day of filming were devoted to the interior of the saloon for the real world and the movie set on Stage 9. The saloon doors in this episode are the same featured in Mr. Garrity and the Graves. So that's a feature that's reused. Is that in season 4? Maybe season 5. I'm not sure.
I think so.
But again, just like the phone, that crazy phone, that there's many other props. The horse, that's one prop. The saloon doors are used again in other episodes. So the 3 days of filming for this one. And Jimbo, tell us about our beloved cast. Not as big as the next episode, but it looks like there were about 10 people in this cast of this episode. Why don't you tell us about them?
Yeah, it's not a terribly too big of a cast. It's obviously bigger than the last episode, but not quite as big as the next one. So here we go. You have Mr. Larry Blyden playing Eric's personal favorite, Rance McGrew.
Rance McGrew.
He was in the Twilight Zone where he played Rocky Valentine.
That's it.
Yep. And he was in a movie, On a Clear Day You Can See Forever.
Rocky Valentine was the gangster kid, right?
Yeah, I think the one
that was in the casino and he had all the girls in his hotel room. Yeah.
You have Arch Johnson playing Jesse James. He was in The Sting in 1973. Eric, he was also in a little Elvis Presley movie known as G.I. Blues.
Okay.
Where he played Sergeant McGraw. You had Robert Cornwait. He played the director. He was in The Thing from Another World in 1951, but he was also in The War of the Worlds in 1953, where he played Dr. Pryor. And he was also a Dr. Shaw, I think it's my handwriting, Shaw, in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. So this guy's basically a character actor where he plays a lot of doctors, it seems. You also had Robert Stevenson. He played the TV bartender as Robert Stevenson. He played in a couple episodes of TV shows like Get Smart in 1965. You had Bill McLean. He was the prop man as William McLean. He was in the movie House in 1985. You also had Troy Melton. He played Cowboy Number 1. He was in The Deer Hunter in 1978 for stunt work. He's a stunt man, basically. Mm-hmm. But he also did the stunts in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Did the stunts in that, too. So we like Pee-wee in this house. Matter of fact, he's sitting over there on the shelf. And then you have Jay Overholtz. He played Cowboy Number 2. Obviously, no need to mention his name. He's the glorified extra in almost every episode we do. You had Hal Dawson. He played the old man. He was in a movie in 1951 called Superman and the Mole Men. So he was in Superman and the Mole Men. So
what year was that?
1951.
Okay.
So then you had Bob Klein. He played the Jesse James TV version. He was in Plunderers of Painted Flats in 1959. You know, I need to go through one day and just look up all these crazy name movies and see if they're any good.
Yeah, they maybe definitely have unique names.
Maybe have Art Toast cover it. Then you had a bunch of other, I'm not even going to go through them, a bunch of other little extras and crew members. So that's your cast for Showdown with Rance McGrew.
Showdown with Rance McGrew. Let's talk about a little bit of a plot here, which, I mean, the plot is... Well, I got some problems with the plot, actually.
Oh, here we go.
Rance McGrew is the star of a weekly TV Western where he plays the town marshal. He is, to say it, at the very least, difficult to deal with. He is frequently late on the set. He arrives unprepared and often requests script changes just as they are about to shoot a scene. To top it off, he's quite inept at handling his gun, which he inadvertently tosses into the saloon mirror on more than one occasion in this episode. He's given to a dose of reality, however, when he inexplicably finds himself back in time, coming face to face with the real Jesse James. Dun, dun, dun. So the opening scene in Act 1, we already kind of get a clue that this is sort of a lighthearted episode when we see Rance, a.k.a. Larry Blyden, drive up in a convertible.
Well, there's a horse at the beginning, right? They tied the horse off.
And the music is really of the era, right? The Old West themed music that we've seen in other episodes and other television shows from that era. And here comes old Rance burning down the street, the Old West Street, throwing up a cloud of smoke, and he pulls up, and I looked it up, in a 1962 Ford Thunderbird with boss hog horns on the front, right?
Yeah.
And it's a cool car, but it immediately clues us in that this is going to be
a doozy.
Another comedic attempt at a comedic episode for the Twilight Zone, a lighthearted one, if you will. So actor Rance McGrew, he stars in a fictional television show as the heroic marshal of the same name, and he arrives late to the shoot for the final scenes of an episode where his character pursues Jesse James. And this Old West town, again, Rance pulling up in his convertible is a little out of place. And then from inside, we go in first, and Rance is late. They're trying to set up the scene. I think it's like scene 70. The director's talking to him, and he's like, I got a headache or something. He takes an aspirin. And then part of the scene is like he goes over to the bar, and he talks to two guys from the town, and he's like, hey, I'm the marshal of this town. Like, yeah, we heard. We know. Yeah. And he's leaning on the bar trying to act all cool. And then we get some of this comedic genius where the bartender slides him the whiskey bottle
Too hard.
and he slides right off the end of the bar, and he's like, I'm not ready.
He's like, did that on purpose. He threw it too hard.
Yeah, or something like that. And then the second take, he's supposed to like take the whiskey bottle right and then like do
Break
something, some trick or something, but he cracks the whiskey
No, he tries
bottle.
to get the lid off or something, don't he? when he
Yeah, the
gets it on
cork.
bar?
Maybe he's just trying to supposed to hit the cork out on the end of the bar, but he cracks like the whole bottle, and then he takes a drink out of it, and it's all broken glass in his mouth and everything. So there's a lot happening. Maybe that doesn't happen in the first scene. Maybe it's the second scene.
I think it's with Jesse James.
Yeah, sorry. So we go inside the bar for a moment, and then they set up the scene, and then it's a cool camera shot. This is one of the coolest introductions, I think, maybe so far. I'm going to go out on the limb and say that. The camera follows one of the actors out the saloon doors, and as we come through the saloon doors, we see Rod Serling, perched against that Thunderbird with a cigarette in his hand, and he delivers the opening narration flawlessly.
Mr. Cool.
And he looks really cool. He's the coolest thing about this whole episode. So, yeah. And then we come to the second act after Rod's narration. Act 2 opens... actually, no. Let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself again. So we come back and we have the moving title shot, of course. And after Rod Cooley leans and does his opening narration, we got our opening title shot. We give all of our credits. In the opening narration, Rod calls him a phony baloney cowboy who can't handle a 6-shooter, catch, or drink real whiskey. I think he says something like that, or that's what I deduced after like watching 2 minutes of this episode. Like he is a total phony baloney cowboy. And one of the other things I noticed early on in the episode, when they're shooting these scenes, is that Rance's stuntman, he takes a beating. The guy, every time they get
like, Stuntman!
he starts yelling stuntman every time anything gets remotely dangerous for him. And this is the scene we talked about already where the bartender slides the whiskey bottle and it goes right off. And then, Rance is always, like me, he's always calling cut. He wants a redo. He's cantankerous, right? And it's just, I don't know. I don't even know how else to describe his character. He wants to reshoot scenes. He's breaking props. He's a real... All right, here's the scene where he catches the whiskey bottle and then attempts to break the cork off and then gets all the glass in his mouth here when he... Then they do a fight scene because the original Jesse James, as a part of the show, is kind of like the Lone Ranger, right? Like Rance never loses a fight. He never loses a gunfight. He always captures... He's always the preeminent good guy. And he's... In real life, he's the complete opposite. Jimbo, anything?
No, you're nailing it right on the head. I mean...
All right, well, let's move on to Act 2. So, the guy who's playing Jesse James, he's laying on the ground. They're rehearsing the scene. They're about to shoot it, and then, boom! Everything changes, and it's like the prelude to reality. And then reality comes in, and the character actor Jesse James disappears, and the real Jesse James is on his way in.
And he's quite a mammoth of a man, too.
Yeah, a lot different. And I think there's like a guy that runs in, right, and is like, hey, Jesse James is looking for you. And Rance is like, yeah, I know. I just got done shooting the scene. What's the, he doesn't realize that he's in the real Old West. He's been transported through the Twilight Zone to the real Old West. So Jesse James, he comes in, and he's in a real... He tracks Rance down. Yeah, he's in a foul mood, and they're in a real Old West saloon where he's confronted by the real Jesse James, who says that he, Billy the Kid, and other famous outlaws are not pleased with the way they are being portrayed on Rance's show, and considers him a fraud who makes his living off the reputations of true gunslingers. And he challenges him to a fast draw showdown. And The real Jesse James, in his words, he says he's here to take a little shine off his pants. Take a little shine off of Rance's pants. So they have an exchange of words. Rance, of course, is about to like pee his pants once he realizes that it's like the real Jesse James, right?
Yeah. He says, I'm going to call my agent.
And Rance realizes that he stands no chance against the real gunfighter. Rance tries to flee, but Jesse stops him, and I'm moving along quickly in the episode here. And amidst this showdown out in the street, Rance struggles to get his gun out of the holster, which is a theme throughout the whole episode. He's fumbling and bumbling with his gun in the holster. He can't get it out before unintentionally flinging it into the air in a panic during this gunfight. And his point is made, and Jesse points his gun down at Rance, who drops to his knees and pleads for the outlaw to spare him. And Jesse accepts.
On one condition, or a couple of
as a condition. He's like, yeah, I won't kill you down in the street like a dog. Wait, what was he had to be like his director, right, or something? His agent. And Jesse James is going to write these episodes a little differently. And, yeah. So, then we come back for Act 3. We're back in the fake world again, where Rance is an actor on a set. And he finds himself on the set only to find that his agent, Jesse, is in Hollywood garb. Jesse insists that the episode be revised, that the actor playing him throws Rance out of the saloon window and escapes instead of how it was originally written. To Jesse's satisfaction, the new scene is shot without trouble. As Jesse drives Rance back home, he goes over revisions to future episodes in which Rance fights Jesse and the afterlife friends based on what they would really do instead of making Rance look good. So they're going to rewrite all of these scripts to make the real life outlaws who are dead make Rance look like a fool. And that's kind of where we end this horrible episode.
You can tell Eric's really into it today.
I blasted through that one. So, anything you want to add? Anything that stuck out to you that you found amusing, slightly entertaining?
I will say that the guy that plays Jesse James, there's a shot where Rance is getting ready to leave. He said, I'm going to go get my agent, and the doors are there to the saloon, and you see this shadow on the wall, head above Rance, and it's the shadow of the cowboy walking in. Here comes Jesse James, who's towering over him. Thought it was really well done there.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a comedy, but the Rance McGrew guy, he did a really good job. Jesse James did a really good job too. We've seen some where it does comedy and it's just not very good at all. But at least they're trying here, I mean, even Jesse James at the end in his flower shirt or whatever, white shirt or whatever, right?
Sure.
Oh, wow. Eric's tough on this one.
Let's get to some trivia, shall we? In the showdown sequence, when Rance McGrew is backing away from Jesse James, the funeral parlor comes into view and reveals the funeral director is C. Nyby, which this episode was directed by Christian Nyby, so it was a nod to him. Frederick Lewis Fox had written a number, we talked about him earlier in the episode, he'd written a number of stories and teleplays for television, westerns, including Johnny Ringo, The Rebel, Zane Grey Theater, Black Saddle, and Lawman. Information regarding the origin of this story for the Twilight Zone script can be found in a letter that was dated on October the 12th, 1961, just days before the episode went before the camera, in which Rod Serling wrote to Frederick Lewis Fox in La Canada, California. I didn't even know that was a place. Huh. Serling thanked Fox for his understanding and patience, having had a recent discussion over the phone. A few days after its completion, a little persistent gnawing bug crawled into my consciousness, and I finally remembered someone telling me a story at a strike meeting last spring. I don't know if it was your story that pushed this one out of me, not published, or a germ of it made it inside writing possible, but I do know that in some 15 years of writing, I have never knowingly copied someone else's material. I've asked Buck Houghton, our producer, to contact Jay Richards to arrange a price for your outline and credit of some sort for which will satisfy you. So he wrote this guy back, this what was his name? Frederick Lewis Fox. Serling wrote this guy and gave him credit. You know, I guess it was bothering his conscience that he had heard the story maybe third hand somewhere, and he just wanted to make sure. Which I think, timeline-wise, this was going on about the same time that someone had suggested that he plagiarized. Who's the guy from Star Trek? One of the main not Gene Roddenberry. There's another guy. I apologize. They were in somewhat of a dispute. This guy accused Serling of stealing some of his material and had brought a lawsuit, I think, against him. So I think Serling was a lot more conscientious about, you know, giving credit where credit was due as a result of some of those legal wranglings. But next trivia point is Leonard P. Greer, a fancy saddler. That might have been the guy you were talking about. He was a fancy saddler and stuntman who specialized in trick horses and made a career of doubling for actors on a number of television westerns, including Laura May, Gunsmoke, Have Gun Will Travel, and Tales of Wells Fargo. This guy Greer was hired for this episode and brought a trick horse to the set in case it was needed for the production. And it says here that Greer also appeared as an extra in the Twilight Zone episode The Old Man in the Cave, which we haven't come to yet. Mr. J. Overholtz. We already talked about him a little bit. He's an actor of uncommon talent with whom Serling had the pleasure of working with at a CBS affiliate in Cincinnati for a number of years. He arrived in California in February of 1959. Serling wrote to a number of talent agencies, including Mitchell Gertz Agency, imposing on them to make a call and set up an appointment so they could meet Overholtz and possibly get him in a few jobs in television. So I guess Serling really liked this guy. That's why he's stuck in a lot of different, what is he in, like 4 or 5 episodes? Maybe more than that.
He's in a lot.
A lot of them just as extras. I think he was a cab driver in the Jungle episode. Mm-hmm. He's been multiple characters in multiple episodes. He's in the Flight 33. He's a cowboy in this episode, Rance McGrew. He was an intern at the conclusion of A Thing About Machines, if you remember that episode. And he was an announcer on the public address system in the episode 22 about the airplane crash. So Serling really liked this guy, and he, you know, made sure to candidate for him to get him on the show.
Did a good job.
Yeah, he did. That's all I have as far as trivia goes. Questions and observations. I'll let you go first. If you would like.
Number one, Eric. I don't like westerns. We already know this.
Yeah,
right?
we're well aware of this.
Well aware, right? But when you do a western like this with comedy in there, it's tolerable. I laughed a couple of times. Did you laugh a couple of times? Especially when he's like, "Stop, man!" and the guy's getting thrown over the bar and punched and picked up. I thought hilarious. I sit back and I wonder if actors today act like that on the set, and the directors pretty much have to put up with them because, let's face it, the director is not getting paid as much money as that actor is going to get paid.
True.
So I bet some of them have their own ideologies that they get to throw in. So I think you see a little bit of that here with Rance McGrew. Hey, I am the company,
right? So
you're going to do what I say, or I'm not going to do the movie, basically. And if you look a little bit deeper than that, and I've always loved Jesse James. When I was a kid, I'd dress up like Jesse James to go rob banks, outside or whatever. Frank and Jesse James. Matter of fact, on the way to work, there's a train track that runs through there, and there's a little sign up there like, this is where Jesse James and him got on the train and boarded through, ran through Indiana or whatever. So I always like, a little bit of history thrown in. Did it go too far? Probably. But it was okay for me. It was an all right episode. So with that, I will give this episode a 5.5 out of 10.
I thought you would go higher than that, but all right.
You call a spade sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But even though I think the two main actors in this did a really good job.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think, who was the actor that played the main character?
Larry Blyden.
Larry Blyden. There are clips, also I will direct you to YouTube, there are clips where I guess not only did he do these 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone, I think in the late 60s or early 70s, he had a game show. He was a game show host.
Really?
And he was really talented. Like, there are a lot of other things.
He's talented.
Yeah, he's definitely talented. I will agree with you on there. on that point. I have a question though. On the very ending scene, if he is the real Jesse James, how would he know how to drive a car? If he's from the 1800s, he would know how to drive horses. That's just a little bit of a.
Let me ask you this other
He just
question.
jumps in the car and peels away.
Let me ask you this other question. If Jesse James is there, how come Billy the Kid and them didn't come with him?
I don't know. That's another good question.
He draw the short stick and say, "Oh, you gotta go deal with him."
Maybe he's like killed the least number of people. I don't know, so he gets to go back. I don't know. So he just because at the very end, he jumps as the agent, or maybe he assumes all the attributes of a real agent when he. I don't know. This it's a little muddy.
Yeah.
The plot is a little muddy, and that would lead me to my next thing. Is like I think it would have played better if the real Jesse James had no knowledge of who Rance was, and he was transported like via the Twilight Zone. He didn't know. Well, yeah, the real Jesse James wouldn't have known who Rance was. He wouldn't have known what act. Well, he might have known what. There was probably actors in the late 1800s. He wouldn't have known Hollywood for sure. I just wish he would have been like transported via the Twilight Zone, and then he just challenged him to a gunfight straight up. Not this whole, I'll make a deal with you because I don't like your TV show, and we're all watching it up in heaven.
What was the episode? I don't know if we covered it yet. I think we did, where they had the. There was that guy that was the quickest. They took that serum or whatever was the quickest draw. You remember that?
No, I'm drawing a blank. It's a movie? Or
No, it's an episode of the Twilight Zone where. I think the guy comes to town selling like fake stuff, snake oil and stuff, and he drinks it and he can
dust.
He has the quickest straw or whatever. Maybe we haven't got to it yet.
I don't think we've gotten to that one yet. Maybe we have, and I just
I think it would have been cool to see.
Just play straight up, like he doesn't know who he just gets. He's just like
kind of like when Professor from Gilligan's Island went back to 1800s to try to stop John Wilkes Booth. Yeah, you could have done the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like he has to piece it together as he goes along,
and then have him look up at the lights at the end and have the cameras or whatever they're shooting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then like he's thinking it's a real gunfight against an actor, and then I just think it would have. I understand that it's a lighthearted episode, and it makes fun of the dominant genre of the time, right? You couldn't get you're talking early 1960s, and. The spaghetti westerns were much more violent. Those came later in that decade, in the 70s. That kind of changed. You've got the squeaky clean, I don't know you got the Gunsmokes of the world.
Bonanzas.
The Bonanzas were popular. All of that types of thing. The Lone Ranger, that would have played like, the really squeaky clean type of Western. I get it. They're making fun of that. But, I enjoyed Quentin Tarantino. This isn't an endorsement, but I enjoyed Quentin Tarantino's version of Rance McGrew in his fictional character, Rick Dalton. And he was on a show, Bounty Law, for the movie. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's a good movie that kind of...
I still haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It'll give you a better insight of what the culture was like in the early 60s as it played to TV cowboys and stuff. I mean, that's like all they did in that time period. And so I'll close with this. The real Jesse James robbed banks and stagecoaches. This Twilight Zone Jesse in the unreal West, he robbed me of 30 minutes of my life that I'll never get back.
Oh, wait. We got to have the...
Yeah. So not unlike The Whole Truth, if you remember that episode from season 2, this one belongs in the dustbin of history of the Fifth Dimension. I wasn't a real big fan of it.
Tough crowd today for Rance McGrew.
You went 5. I'm going to go at least a 5.
I went 5.5.
I'll give it a notch under, then I'll give it a 5. I just wasn't a real fan of this one. I think IMDb gave it a 6.5. Again, it's I just didn't enjoy it that much. So yeah, there it is. I think it's that plot. I think the thing that I dig down the most on is like the plot would have been better. The whole wrinkle of those guys, all those outlaws, and knowing. Watching the television show and then trying to manipulate the situation to take the shine off of Rance's pants and, put him in his place. I just thought that was, I don't know. It was doing too much, I thought. But anyway, that's just one man's opinion.
Will Eric ever like another Twilight Zone episode? We will find out soon.
Stay tuned because he will in the next episode.
Well, if you want to follow us, we are the Tragedy of Cinema podcast on Facebook. If you want to leave us a review on iTunes, we will read it on the air. But Eric, any final closing comments? You got a joke of the day or anything today?
No jokes. We tried that last episode and it flopped.
And Eric says, I'm just going to cut it out. I said, okay. Well, that being said, I think this episode's coming to close, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
The evolution of the so-called adult Western and the metamorphosis of one Rance McGrew, formerly phony baloney, now upright citizen, with a preoccupation with all things involving tradition, truth, and cowpoke predecessors. It's the way the cookie crumbles and the six-gun shoots in the Twilight Zone.